In the hills of central Ohio, there's a showdown coming among the fastest and most complex racing machines on Earth. Through 7 rounds of the International Motorsports Association Camel GT Championship, the defending champions from Nissan have won 4 times, putting Australian Geoff Brabham on track for a possible 3rd straight driving title. Hoping to derail Brabham and Nissan, Jaguar and Toyota have also won, while Porsche and Chevrolet are knocking at the door. Today, the stretch run begins for the 1990 IMSA Camel GT Championship at the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio. Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, just north of Columbus in the Green Hills of northern Ohio, today plays host to Round 8 on the International Motorsports Association Camel GT Series. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with 2-time IMSA road racing champion Jack Baldwin, welcoming you to Mid-Ohio, where a new layer of paving has made this racetrack the equal of any in the world. And all the great makes in the world are here: Toyota, Jaguar, Porsche. But thus far, Jack, I think the 1990 season can be summed up in one word: Nissan.
Absolutely, Bob. Nissan has won the last 2 races here. They've won the last 2 championships. They're sitting on the pole here in a new car. Those guys just keep getting tougher and tougher. So the big question is, who can beat Nissan?
And who can beat 2-time series champ Geoff Brabham, who drives the Nissan that sits on the pole, and Marty Reed is with him now.
The biggest surprise of the weekend has to be the performance of James Weaver, putting Rob Dyson's Porsche 962C on the front row. He'll be starting alongside number 2, beside the pole sitter, this man, Geoff Brabham. Geoff, obviously a vote of confidence on your part and the team's part to put you into the new car first out of the box.
Well, the Nissan's running really well, and it seems to be pretty reliable up to now, so we're just going to put our best foot forward and go for it.
35-mile-an-hour gusts, is that going to create any problem for you guys out there?
No, it really shouldn't. I think the only racetrack that I've ever had any problem with wind is really Indianapolis, with the speeds that we run here. But typically on a road course like this, it really isn't too much of a problem.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I think I'd rather be out where I'm going to be today, watching you coming in and out of pit lane, than trying to buffet that wind. Good luck.
Okay, thanks a lot.
And as we wait to fire engines, let's take a quick look at the race course on which these drivers will do battle today. Jack?
Mid-Ohio is certainly one of the most challenging and nicest courses in the United States, built by the late Jim Truman. That they've made some nice changes. They've taken the chicane out that leads down into the old keyhole. Well, let's take a lap with the new Nissan. We are going through turn 1, a fast left-hander. Onto this straightaway leading down into the keyhole, you'll notice on the right that where they've taken the chicane out so you can go straight into the keyhole, making it a faster turn and smoother with a greater exit speed onto the straightaway. You can notice how the car comes out and runs over that concrete slab, how the change of grip affects the car's handling just slightly. Through the dog leg down the straightaway, speeds approaching roughly about 170, I would think. Into a downhill right-hander, leading to an uphill left-hander, up over the top of a hill, and then downhill into a falling away right-hander. This is, they've widened the course, but obviously you can see that it's still pretty narrow and difficult to pass back here. Over the top of that little hill right there, sometimes you'll catch some air. This is a right-hander, comes up over, car gets real light here. You gotta be very careful with the car. It's a downhill kind of a right-hander, a lot of G's right in this area, to a left-hander, up over the top of a little hill, downhill into the carousel. The carousel is a very difficult turn and very important because it does take you down to the front straightaway into the start and finish line.
And because this pit straightaway at the finish is so short, they will take just the checkered flag. There's the flag stand at the lower right part of your screen. The green flag will be taken on that long 170 to 180 mile an hour backstretch. Rain washed out final qualifying yesterday. Nevertheless, Geoff Brabham really earned the Nissan NPT 90's first pole, 0.8 of a second quicker than James Weaver in a Porsche. We'll tell you how the rest of the field will line up when we return to Mid-Ohio. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio, where the field is rolling off and we're getting ready for the green flag here at the Nissan Camel Grand Prix. And here's the way the cars will line up. On the pole at a record average speed of 110.245 miles an hour, Geoff Brabham, the 2-time champion, sharing with Daly in a 1990 Nissan. Next to him, James Weaver and Hurley Haywood in a Porsche. Row 2, Chip Robinson and Bob Earl in a 1988 Nissan, next to Davy Jones and David Leslie in a Jaguar Turbo. On row 3 will be John Nielsen sharing with Price Cobb in a Jaguar turbocharged car, next to Albert Nayon and Colin Truman in a Chevy Spice. Row 4 will be Juan Fangio II sharing with Rocky Moran in a turbocharged Toyota Eagle, next to John Paul Jr. and Kevin Cogan in a Nissan. On row 5 will be Wayne Taylor, the South African now living in Florida, sharing his Chevy Spice with Jim Miller, the car owner. Next to them, Drake Olson, Fangio backing him up in the Toyota. On row 6 will be John Hotchkiss and Jim Adams in a Pontiac Spice, David Tennyson, Chris Clark, and Calvin Fish, the Camel Lights pole sitter. Tomas Lopez and Perry McCarthy will be on row 7 in a Lights car next to defending champion Scott Schubert and Linda Ludeman. Martino Fanato and Rogero Melgrati in a Ferrari Spice next to Charles Morgan and Tom Hessert on row 8. Row 9, Howard Katz and Sweden's Jan Tingdahl in a Buick Spice Lights car next to George Sutcliffe and John Bartlett. And on the final row, Brent O'Neill and Jean Delamousse in a Buick-powered Argo. As the cars warm tires and engines, we'll take a look at the race analysis. Of the 19 cars, 11 are the big GTP cars, the unlimited prototypes. 8 of them will be Camel Lights cars, slightly smaller, lighter, using 3-liter and under engines. Great crowd on hand. Beautiful day, 78 degrees. A pretty stiff breeze, but that shouldn't affect these race cars too much. As I mentioned, a lot of rain yesterday afternoon has washed the surface clean. And as I also mentioned, the cars will take the green flag on the long backstretch. Geoff Brabham on the pole. Right behind him is teammate Chip Robinson in 2 different versions of the all-conquering Nissan. And on the right will be James Weaver in the Porsche. A bit of a surprise there, and Weaver gets snookered right there at the start. Geoff Brabham is gone, and the second Nissan pulls in behind.
Robinson got a great place to start, right in behind his teammate Geoff Brabham. So they go into turn 1, tucked up underneath each other, and off they go.
It is Brabham out to the early lead. Second is Chip Robinson. Looks like Davy Jones moving up close in the Jaguar, the number 60 car right there, and Weaver falls into 4th position. And look at the gap opened up already by Geoff Brabham.
Oh, he's not wasting any time, is he?
Now these cars, these new Nissans, the drivers say, are a little tricky. They're not as forgiving as the example of the Nissan you see just behind in the hands of Chip Robinson. Very hard to balance. Good look there at one of the Jaguars. That's the 61 machine being started by John Nielsen. Across the start-finish line goes Geoff Brabham, the 2-time Camel GT champion, and the balloons fly. A little bit late, folks. We're already underway.
You know, these new cars, they're a little bit twitchy. They're still learning about the cars, and they probably haven't got the balance that they're trying to achieve, which makes they have to be a little careful with them. But obviously they're happy with the performance of the cars, and they intend those cars to be much better than the last ones.
Geoff Brabham going for his 3rd straight victory here at Mid-Ohio, and should he win with Derek Daly as we jump aboard with Geoff Brabham, Daly would become his 3rd different co-driver. He won 2 years ago, partnered by Tom Gloy, a former Trans Am sedan champion. Last year it was Brabham and Chip Robinson moving to victory for Nissan, and this year he will try to do it, pick up the hat trick with Derek Daly, former kart IndyCar driver from Ireland.
Well, look how nice it is being out there in the lead. You know, your windshield stays cleaner longer. You know, it's real nice. You just get out there and drive. It's wonderful.
It has definitely been a Nissan season in Camel GT racing. Winners of 4 of the 7 rounds coming in. And the Nissan team has picked up 46 victories in 4 seasons. And we have not completed 4 seasons with this team yet in Camel GT racing. Compare that, if you will, with the all-time Camel GT win record of 50 victories won by Holbert Racing, run by the late Al Holbert out of Warrington, Pennsylvania, running Porsches. They picked up 50 victories, but it took them 14 seasons to do it. 46 victories in just 4 seasons for Nissan tells you just how strong they've been. Now Davy Jones in the 60 Jaguar goes underneath Chip Robinson and takes it going into turn 1.
Davy Jones is on the move. Obviously, a new passing area opens up with the new keyhole situation, and he just took advantage of that. He's got to get up there and go after Brabham. He cannot let Brabham get too far ahead.
And quickly opens up a few car lengths on Chip Robinson in the 1988 Nissan, the pride of Cortland, New York. Well, we've got an early pit stop. This is the customer Nissan started by John Paul Jr.
Take a look at the nose of the car on the right-hand side under the number. You'll see that those wings have been bent down just a little bit. He's obviously got involved with somebody, and they're checking for something that is probably bent.
I mentioned the Holbert Racing team, holders of the all-time win record. Kevin Duran, Al Holbert's old crew chief, is maintaining this car. Now let's take a look from the in-car at what happened here.
There it is.
Yep.
There it is, right there.
John Paul Jr. came together with the 61 Jaguar of John Nielsen.
Now, I wonder if that's going to affect the 61 Jaguar. It just depends what damage was done to the left rear corner of that car. It doesn't take a whole lot to unsettle the aerodynamics on these cars. You know, if you lose some of your body work, it has a dramatic effect on the way the car handles and the way the car goes through the air, and these cars are aero cars. So, meaning that the way they travel through the air, you know, dictates how they're going to handle. You can't be banging them around.
Former Camel GT champion, John Paul Jr. You see the gauges flicking there as he makes his way down the backstretch. That swinging hand as though on a clock. Whoa, and you can see him just rocket by a car having trouble on the backstretch. That's a turbo boost gauge swinging up and down.
You know, it gives you an idea of just how fast you're going when you go by a car that's parked. You're going very slowly. That Camel, I think it was a Camel Light car, you can see how he went by at approximately 160, and that's what it looks like from the driver's seat.
And there is the car with a problem. That's the number 80 Camel Lights car, started by Ruggero Melgrati of Italy. It's a Ferrari-powered Spice car, and he's obviously got a problem early on. Tough break for them. Back up front, Geoff Brabham, who has led since the start. But look where Davy Jones has brought the turbocharged V6 Jaguar.
Davy wants him. Davy's trying. You've got to try hard to go after Brabham if you want to catch him.
Good luck from on board. We have had 3 different winners in 3 races coming into Mid-Ohio. The Nissan at West Palm Beach, Toyota at Heartland Park in Topeka, Kansas, and Jaguar most recently, in fact just last weekend at Lime Rock. Geoff Brabham leads. We'll return to Mid-Ohio. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio, where we are lapping cars. Geoff Brabham and the number 83 Nissan about to overtake a slower Camel Lights car. But right behind him is Davy Jones, and they have been forcing the pace. They've gone from laps at 1 minute 16 seconds to 1 minute 14 seconds. So they have picked up the pace as Jaguar pursues Nissan. Down into turn 1, the twin turbocharged V6 Nissan and the twin turbocharged V6 Jaguar. Each of them 3 liters in displacement, making perhaps 750 horsepower.
You know, the Nissan has set such a torrid pace that the Jaguars and the Toyotas, they have to run so hard to get out in front of the Nissans. It's been quite a challenge for them.
You're on board now with John Paul Jr. and the BF Goodrich customer Nissan that came together with John Nielsen and a Jaguar earlier. We thought the damage was to the left front corner, but as you see, and Paul pits, the problem must be continuing. It was the right front corner of the Nissan that impacted the left front corner of the Jaguar. Here's Marty.
Now this time they're going to work on the front tires as they are removing both left and right, and here comes the nose off again. They've obviously got some kind of suspension handling problem as they are now looking at the spring and also the entire suspension on the left front.
Well, one corner or the other, there's obviously a problem with that car. And here is John Nielsen's car, the one the Nissan came together with. Obviously something wrong in the engine compartment with that car. Jaguar team pushing it behind the wall. Boy, tough break for them.
Yeah, I wonder if that collision had an effect on the back of the car. It could have been something in the rear suspension of the Jaguar also.
We pick up the battle in the Camel Lights class. The 3 liters running nose to tail. Calvin Fish in the Ferrari Spice that sat on pole in class, sharing with David Tennyson. There goes Calvin right now. But right behind him, defending Camel Lights champ Scott Schubert and Tomas Lopez just behind him. Good battle in these Camel Lights cars. They've always had a terrific fight, running their own class up against the big GT prototypes. They will run for separate prize money and their own championship this year, worth $50,000 to the winner. Calvin Fish made his way up through Formula Atlantic open wheel racing and drives sedans as well. And now he's become a sports car driver. There's Scott Schubert on the right in a Buick-powered Spice, being chased hard by Tomas Lopez, the Camel Lights point leader right now, in another Spice with Buick power. There goes Calvin Fish. Scott Schubert, a great story. He and his teammate Linda Ludeman in that orange number 4 burned the car to the ground at Sebring, missed a few races, but they're back in action. There's a look at Tomas Lopez from Mexico, bidding to become the first internationally born champion in Camel Lights. He is teamed today with European Formula 3000 veteran Perry McCarthy, making his debut in IMSA racing here in the United States. Meanwhile, Marty Reed in the pits has caught up with John Nielsen, who just climbed out of the Jaguar. Let's go to Marty now.
I got to be honest, I did not expect to be talking to you this soon. What happened?
Well, I didn't want to talk to you that soon also, but that's the way I guess racing goes. What happened was that the oil pump drive broke, so there was no oil pressure anymore, so it was just a matter of laps before the engine would seize up, so I had to stop.
Did you have any forewarning that this was going to happen, or did it just go that quick?
Well, when the drive goes, it just goes quickly, and you get a warning light says no oil pressure, so you know what that means, you know, stop.
Well, it's been tough for the Jaguar team. They came into this race having done a lot of testing on that V6 twin turbo, and they really thought they had it in great shape. They still have one car out there, Davy Jones, hounding this man, Geoff Brabham, who has led since the beginning. And we asked Geoff before the race what he thinks of the new surface here at Mid-Ohio.
In Mid-Ohio is the only racetrack we go to in America that every time you come here, they've done something better than when we were here last year. And I think this time they've really outdone themselves. So it's you know, it's smooth, it's wide, and I think the extra speed that we carry through the corners, I think, has made the track even more challenging now. So, you know, I'm having a lot of fun out there.
And well, you might, with 2 straight championships coming in, a fat lead in the points coming into this race. In fact, the first time in the last 3 years that Geoff Brabham has picked up an early lead in points. You see those concrete patches, the light-colored patches at the corners. There is no asphalt made, we are told, that can stand up to the downforce of these cars. They literally will rip the pavement right off the road. So the folks at Mid-Ohio have laid these concrete patches to give the cars traction at the corner while allowing the racetrack to survive.
As Geoff was saying, some of the changes that were made to the circuit has made the place faster. And with a GTP car, it's sort of the faster you go, the more downforce you have, and the more downforce you have, the faster you go. So he's having a lot more fun with the car because he's able to get through the corners quicker. The car sticks better, so he can have more fun driving.
Now here come the Toyotas running in lockstep. Juan Fangio, who won the race at Heartland Park Topeka earlier this year, being chased by the 98 of his teammate Drake Olson. The Toyota guys didn't get a chance to test here at Mid-Ohio on this new surface, and they have been chasing grip all weekend. They didn't qualify as well as they would have liked, qualifying 7th and 10th in this field. That's unusual. They won 3 straight poles coming into this race. You got to look at Drake Olson there. They just have had a terrible time coming to grips with this place, so to speak.
Dan Gurney's team, they absolutely work hard. I've never known a team to work any harder than they work to try to become more competitive. They never give up. They never give in. They constantly make that second and third effort to get there. I mean, they just, you've got to be impressed with the effort that is made with the Toyota team.
And right now they are improving. They have come from 7th and 10th. They now run 4th and 5th in the field. But up front, the 83 Nissan keeps rolling along. Geoff Brabham, and right there is Davy Jones.
You know, Davy came up, got up to him, but it's like Geoff looks in the mirror and says, okay, Davy, that's about as close as you're going to get. And he holds him at bay. It's like he got a total control of the situation.
And the lap times continue at a sizzling 1:14. That is just a second or so slower than what they qualified at. Geoff Brabham holding on, looking for the first victory for the 1990 model. Oh, a Toyota in the pits. Here's Marty.
And Juan Manuel Fangio brings it into the pits, and you can see them going to work on the front area where they had to clear off the grass. They will not make a driver change, although Rocky Moran is standing by, and they have gotten everything cleared away, and they're back in 20 seconds.
Well, as you can see, when the car came in, they removed the grass from these ducts in the front of the car. Those were the brake ducts that cool the brakes. So he ran off, plugged the ducts, overheated the brakes. It looks like they actually caught on fire. So when he lost the brake pedal, obviously he knew he had a problem at that point. He came in, they cleared it out, squirted out the fire. He's back and gone.
But he has lost all the ground that he worked so hard to make up, and then some. Geoff Brabham remains your leader, crossing the start-finish line. Davy Jones right there in the Jaguar. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Bob Varsha, Jack Baldwin, and Marty Reed with you. You're on board with your leader, as he has been from the get-go here at Mid-Ohio, Geoff Brabham.
kind of nice to just sit here and watch him work from inside the car and see what it really looks like as he's doing what he does best, drive that race car.
And there you see Davy Jones in the Jaguar right there. Davy celebrated his 26th birthday this weekend, and there is the interval back to Chip Robinson in the 1988 version of Nissan's racing car.
You know, you got to think that Davy is really trying very hard to catch him and pass him. He's given it everything. There's no holding back at this point. I mean, there is nothing left. He's trying.
And there is no greater charger than Davy Jones. Meanwhile, here is John Paul Jr. limping around in that number 67. This is the customer Nissan, fielded by David Seabrook and Jim Busby, a longtime Porsche competitor, switching over to Nissan this year. He's going to carry on, but as you can see, the speed has been severely reduced in that car as he passes some Camel Lights competitors.
It's tough when something like that happens to the car and the car's not right. You don't have time to fix it. So basically what happens is they call you and they say, well, just be careful. Keep going and be careful.
With a damaged right front corner in that car, he has pitted twice since colliding with John Nielsen's Jaguar. I say he has slowed down, of course. He's only doing about 170 miles an hour on the straightaway. Not a whole lot of extra work on that steering wheel, so perhaps the damage to that right front corner isn't as bad as we thought.
Well, it's hard to speculate what damage was done. Obviously, there's something broken there, and there's something that they're aware of, and they've just had to modify the lap time or the speed that they're running around this course to make the end of the race. They don't have a choice, really.
He is squarely in the middle of the Camel Lights battle. That is the Lights leader, Calvin Fish, in the Ferrari car just ahead of them. Meanwhile, here is a look at Hurley Haywood, who has taken over for James Weaver in Rob Dyson's Porsche. Hard to believe that after all these years when Porsche dominated Camel GT racing, this is the only example of the mark out here. But they have done well this weekend. Weaver put the car second on the grid. He said it's the best qualifying Porsche he's ever driven. The Andile engine tuners under Alvin Springer have gotten a lot of extra horsepower out of that car. Now here comes Chip Robinson, the 1987 Camel GT champion. He won his title driving a Porsche for the late Al Hulbert and switched over to Nissan last year. And right now he's making progress in last year's car. There on the right is Don Devendorf, the man, the engineering genius, I should say, behind these Nissan race cars. And now here you see Geoff Brabham, your leader, trying to overtake Juan Fangio in the number 99 Toyota. He moves just slightly aside, but Brabham got a wheel off and raised some dust, and that gave Davy Jones an opportunity to close up a little closer in the Jaguar. Now here's Jones looking to the inside on the straightaway.
Yep, he took advantage of that. His exit, 83's exit was slowed coming off that corner, and that let the 60 Jaguar just slide right up in there and get by. Got that speed that he needed to get by. I know he feels good about this.
And so we have a new leader here at Mid-Ohio. Davy Jones in the Jaguar has taken over from Geoff Brabham. There's a look from on board. The first time we've seen a different car out front today.
You know, when he comes down that front straightaway and everybody looks out there on the Jaguar crew and everybody sees him leading, I mean, you've got to imagine how happy these guys are that they actually did it.
That Jaguar team, owned by Tom Walkinshaw, bossed by Tony Dow, they really try hard. They are serious racers. And now in their third year of Camel GT competition, they desperately want to win. They have a victory this year, that at the 24 Hours of Daytona to begin the 1990 season, but they desperately want to pick up another one now and close the gap if they can on the Nissan boys.
Well, Davey looks like he's doing an awfully nice job. He's inspired. I mean, he's just out there running, and he's actually putting distance on Brabham. Whether or not Geoff wants it that way, I doubt it.
And now Jones moves up on that Nissan driven by John Paul Jr. So traffic may play a role once again. You're on board with Paul Jr. Let's see if Davey comes by in his windshield. This is the toughest part of this Mid-Ohio course to pass on.
Yep.
Whoops.
No, I expected that. You notice how he stayed to the right down that hill, letting the Jaguar go by. And that was a nice, courteous thing for John Paul Jr. to do. That was him being responsible and being aware of the situation and doing the responsible thing, letting them go.
Good look at the wall. Comes right down to trackside here at Mid-Ohio. Dangerous part of the racetrack right there. You don't want to go off with a wall right there at your shoulder. There is Davy Jones, your new leader. Now, his scheduled partner in this car is a Scotsman, 36 years old, by the name of David Leslie, who has had virtually no time to practice in this race car other than what he got this weekend at Mid-Ohio. He has driven the 12-cylinder Jaguar with a 7-liter engine used in international sports car competition, but he really has had no time to speak of here. And of course, this is a brand new racetrack. Leslie has never raced in the United States before. So with John Nielsen's Jaguar out of the race, it'll be interesting to see whether Leslie or American Price Cobb will climb in when Davy Jones pits. You see that little bump just above the driver's head. The rules in IMSA competition state that the driver compartment has to be even with the height of the rear wing. So when Jaguar built the car, they added that little bubble to meet the rules. Now we're back to the Camel Lights battle. Here comes Scott Schubot, who has taken over as the leader in class from Calvin Fish. This is the Buick-powered Spice that went to the championship last year and then burned to the ground at the 12 Hours of Sebring in the 3rd round of this season. Ahead of him is Drake Olson running the GTP Toyota. Scott Schubot's teammate and girlfriend Linda Ludeman is celebrating a birthday today. Good to see them back in competition.
They do a real nice job with this car. They're very consistent, they're always competitive, and they win their share of them.
Scott Schubot voted the most improved driver in Camel GT racing a couple of years ago and then capped it with the Camel Lights Championship last year. Now we've got more pit action. The Jaguar is in, Davy Jones gets out, and it looks as though, let's see, I believe Price Cobb has gotten into that car. So Leslie will not sit in, Price Cobb will go, and he smokes the tires on his way out. Cobb eager to get back into the fray. Right behind him, the leader is in. Here's Marty Reed in the Nissan pits.
Well, Geoff Brabham brings the leading now. Nissan ZX Turbo in for its first scheduled pit stop. They have certainly made the window, which will allow them to do this race in 2 stops. They have just inherited the lead, and everything is down and away as Derek Daly takes over.
Now we may be running you too hard there, Marty. You sound a little bit out of breath as you're on board now with Derek Daly from Ireland.
As usual, that was a beautiful stop. Picture perfect. The Nissan team comes over the wall, services the car perfectly, puts the car down, the car leaves, and we're back to action.
More than once this year, fast work in the pits has brought the Nissan through to victory. The leader is Chip Robinson over teammate Derek Daly and will return to Mid-Ohio. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio, where the pit stops continue in the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio, and this is the leading Nissan, the number 84 car, started by Chip Robinson, who has climbed out and now slams the door on the new driver, Bob Earl from Larkspur, California. Down comes the car, fuel is in, tires are on, driver is in, and it's another impeccable job for the Nissan team. That puts Derek Daly in the number 83 car back on point. But meanwhile, right behind Earl, we've got another drama. Here's Marty.
Well, this has got to be heartbreak for the Castrol Jaguar team. They were leading this race, and now they are coasting to a stop, and they may not make it to the pit. We're halfway down. You can see the team coming out to grab the car and give it a push to get up there to pit lane, and we'll go up there to find out what's wrong.
Oh my, so both Jaguars, one is out and the other one is crippled in the pit lane. Price Cobb got in 1 lap in that car. Meanwhile, up front, Geoff Brabham with headlights on. I beg your pardon, this is now Derek Daly in relief of Geoff Brabham with 1 pit stop yet to go, and they now have a huge lead over the 2nd place Nissan, which just exited the pits in the hands of Bob Earl. There's a look at a broth of a lad. Derek Daly spent a lot of time in the IndyCar ranks, now a sports car driver and a good one. Meanwhile, Marty Reed is standing by with the man he relieved in this car, Geoff Brabham.
This has been a very interesting race. You jump out to an early lead, fall back, and now all of a sudden it looks like the Jag is out with big time problems.
Yeah, that's a shame. I was looking forward to racing Davey in the race. We're very evenly matched, and I thought we were going to have a great race. So it's kind of a shame they fell out, but that's the way it goes sometimes.
Let's talk about your car, because obviously everybody wants to know, how is it performing?
Well, it's handling very well. The only problem we have is we have to pump the brake pedal every time you get into into a corner. Now, it's not much of a problem because she just needs one quick little pump and then we have a good pedal. But the first time into the first corner on the first lap, I had a bit of a moment because the brake pedal went to the floor. But as long as you know that and you just give it a quick pump, then it's all right, you know.
That's easy to say when you're going about 175 miles an hour, as Derek Daly is now. I guess you pump up that pedal with your left foot, wouldn't you, Jack?
No, well, you can pump it up with your left foot, but when there's nobody breathing down your neck like that, I mean, you can just reach over. There's nobody trying to pass you, so you can just reach over, pump up the pedal. You don't have to worry about a late braking situation. Just drive the car carefully.
Let's get back to the pits now, where Marty Reed has caught up with Davy Jones.
Well, there are hard days at the office, and then there are just downright disasters. Leading the race, you come in, and next thing you know, you're out. What happened?
Well, all I can say is that the car was working very well. We're getting it to a point now where the engine's working well. We can dial in the chassis, and we've got a good race car. The new Nissan's quick, and certain spots around the track, it was pulling me just a little bit, and I'd get him back in other areas. So we were trading off back and forth, but it was hard work. And you know, unfortunately, the car was running really well. Came in, handed over to Price Cobb, and I don't know if it's, we have a little bit of problem getting our car out of the pit lane, so we have to really get up into the rev limit or leaving. Whether that did something to the engine or not, I don't know, but he only got a half a lap in, and just luck hit us, put us out.
Well, you get the sense in talking with both Brabham and Jones, they really would like to be out there racing. Meanwhile, problems now for our Camel Lights leader. This is Scott Schubot in, and the engine bonnet is off. That is not a good sign in any race.
Looks like they're going to work on the alternator.
And tough break, loss of electrical power on that car. Meanwhile, this is now the leader in class, the number 32 machine being driven by points leader Tomas Lopez of Mexico and England's Perry McCarthy in his Camel GT debut. That's a lap car of Brent O'Neill and Jean Delamousse behind them. So right now, it looks like Lopez and McCarthy have things pretty much their way in the lights class. And oh, we got a car off here. This is the 99 car, Juan Manuel Fangio II. Took a piece off of that car and kicks it, drops the clutch, spins the back end around, and he's racing once again, just as traffic comes up from behind.
Notice how dark the sides of the car are. It looks like soot, black soot all over the side of the car. That is, it's carbon dust from. They're the only car that I know of that runs. Everybody uses carbon brake pads, but they use carbon rotors, and they're lightweight, they're expensive, and they put out a lot of dust. The drivers tell me that it is one of the problems.
This is the second place car now in Camel Lights, the number 8 machine of Tom Hessert and Charles Morgan. Hessert, a former champion. Both of these men still in the battle for this year's Camel Lights title. Back on board now with your leader, Derek Daly, in the number 83 Nissan. He's got slower traffic in front of him. One of the Toyotas. Then the car we saw a moment ago, the number 25 Lights machine, and up ahead the number 32 of Lopez and McCarthy.
That was a nice pass, wasn't it?
Any pass is a good pass as far as I'm concerned.
He slipped right on through there. That was real nice.
And there's the number 98 car. That is Drake Olson, in danger of being put a lap down right now. He is running in 3rd place on our unofficial lap charts. Derek Daly and Geoff Brabham having things all their own way. Here is the 2nd place car, Bob Earl, having taken over from the man who started it, Chip Robinson. The 4 Nissan drivers, the only drivers in the Camel GT Series this year who have won more than one race each. It is pretty much a Nissan battle on the top of the points table, and Nissan dominating the manufacturer's title chase right now over Jaguar and Toyota. Onto the backstretch goes Bob Earl. Meanwhile, we've got more action in the pits. I think one of the Toyotas has come back in. We'll pick up the action in the pit lane with Marty Reed.
So the 99 Toyota comes into the pits for what will be their final stop. A lot of tire smoke and soot all over this car. You can see how the venting takes the rubber right up and over the top of the machine. They're cleaning off the windshield, 4 tire change. Still waiting for the fueling to be finished off. Now that's completed, they're just waiting for the windshield actually to get dry, and they're having a little problem with the right rear tire. The lug is still not on. Now he's down, but they got a hand up. They've got a problem underneath, so this is going to be costly as they are waiting and looking underneath.
That's a tough break. Rocky Moran now in that car in relief of Juan Fangio. Moran, a stalwart at Indianapolis every year. Boy, you're right about that car, Jack. That soot is everywhere, but you and Marty disagree a little bit about where it came from.
Well, in talking to the drivers, one of the problems is breathing that dust. When the drivers get out, their faces are all black, and it is really a problem.
Good example there on the sides of the 98 car. Carbon dust off of the brake rotors and the brake discs. Back aboard with Derek Daly, having things all his way here at Mid-Ohio. Stay with us. Back at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, you're watching the battle for the lead in the Camel Lights class on the Nissan Grand Prix of Ohio. Due to a shuffling during pit stops earlier on, David Tennyson in the pole-sitting number 19 car he shared with Calvin Fish is now under fire from Englishman Perry McCarthy in the Buick Spice that he shares with Tomas Lopez, the lights points leader. And here comes the second-place car of Bob Earl.
You see, as Bob comes up on these two light cars, he realizes there's a race going on, and they're paying attention to each other more possibly than they're paying attention to him. So he's very careful about the way he goes by these guys.
And he splits that battle. Tennyson gets a breather. He's got a faster car behind him, holding off the Englishman McCarthy. Time for a second round of pit stops. Here's Marty.
Well, our leader brings it into the pits as Geoff Brabham will get back in, and the Nissan crew goes back to work one more time. Derek Daly climbs out. 4-tire change. As we said, last stop as they will be heading for the checkered flag after this one. Daly with a fine performance in his stint behind the wheel. The driver change has already been made. The jacks are ready to come down as all 4 tires are back on. All they're waiting for is the fuel. And he's down. Geoff slips it into gear. A little hesitation, but he's underway.
And so the two-time and defending Camel GT champion slides back out onto the racetrack with a shot at Nissan's 5th victory in 8 races this year, and they have really spread them around. All 4 drivers on the team have won at least once. They have won in their old car, and now today they're looking for their first victory in their newest version of the Nissan Camel GT machine.
They're so competitive, they seem almost unbeatable at times.
And you can tell from the sound of that engine, sounds like Geoff Brabham is kind of taking it easy now in the late stages of this race.
Well, you know, he's got this race under control, and he's got cold tires, and it's the first lap. So
and he lets his teammate go by, the 84 car of Bob Earl, who has yet to pit. And that puts the 84 Nissan into the lead. And the key may have been, as you said, Jack, tires.
Tires. He needs to be careful, and Bob Earl, of course, came up on him, and Bob's running his pace. So the right thing to do, let your teammate by. Don't hold him up.
Meanwhile, the battle in the Camel Lights class has gone to the number 32 car. Perry McCarthy making his Camel GT debut, and it could be a winning one. You see, they have already passed the number 19 machine of David Tennyson. Boy, it's been quite a weekend for Perry McCarthy. His luggage got lost coming over here. He drove in Wayne Taylor's uniform for practice, and even now he's wearing borrowed driving boots in that car. It'll all be worth it if he can chalk up a victory here in his debut. And we've got another pit stop now. This is the second stop for the number 16 Dyson Racing Porsche. James Weaver, who qualified the car and started it on the outside front row, will take over from Hurley Haywood, another former Camel GT champion in today's event. And he will carry it down to the finish. Presently shown in 5th position. 6th is well back behind them. That is Colin Truman and Albert Nayon in a Chevy-powered Spice, so they have time to get this pit stop done, get back out there, and bring home a 5th-place finish for the Dyson Racing team. The Porsches will be taking off 100 pounds of weight. They could have done it for this race, but crew chief Mark Showman said they really didn't have enough time to get that act together. They will take off the weight in future events, and it won't be easy. These cars are pretty trim as they are. Meanwhile, back up on point, Geoff Brabham out front in the 83 car, and that first victory for this machine is looking very, very likely at this point.
You know, a good question to ask one of these crew chiefs was, how much do you think it would cost to take off 100 pounds?
Good question. Go to a lot more titanium. There you see Bob Earl running 2nd right now. There is Drake Olson running in 3rd position. Toyota could inherit a 3rd-place finish. Well, I shouldn't say inherit. They've certainly worked for everything they've got today. The 98 car still pretty much unblemished. The 99 machine, shared by Juan Fangio and Rocky Moran, has been on and off the racetrack a couple of times today. And here comes Geoff Brabham as the laps run down here at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, right now Geoff knows as long as his car runs, he's going to win the race. No one can catch him and no one can pass him now.
Still running very low revs from the sound of it.
Well, why take any chances? I think they know exactly how fast they need to run to bring it into victory lane. That's what they're doing.
You got to look at Wayne Taylor there in the normally aspirated Chevy 6-liter Chevrolet, the Spice chassis, currently running in 4th position. So Wayne Taylor will try to bring it home for Jim Miller, the MTI Vacation Spice team. Looks like he has a notion of getting by Bob Earl there. But he is a lap down. He's trying to make up a lap.
Well, it's to his advantage to get by, because if he gets on the same lap and a caution hits, he gets to come all the way around, and it could change the outcome of the race. So that explains why he's working so hard to make it.
Across the start-finish line one more time. The normally aspirated cars becoming more and more competitive in IMSA Camel GT racing as a result of restrictions placed on the turbocharged cars. I think up and down the pit lane, the drivers would tell you a good turbo car will beat a good normally aspirated car just about every time. But by cutting down on the air intakes on the turbocharged cars and adding a little weight here and there, IMSA officials are trying to make the series more competitive. Now here is the battle for second place in Camel Lights. This is Tom Hessert and Charles Morgan. Behind them, the pole-sitting car of David Tennyson and Calvin Fish. This car stopped a second time for fuel, and Calvin Fish got back in. Right now they are running in 3rd place, trying desperately to overhaul the second place number 8 car right ahead of them. That car behind them, number 33, is in the GTP class. That's a full-blown Chevy Spice. Tom Hessert, former Camel Lights champion, hoping for a second place here. This is a kudzu, as it's known, put together by Jim Downing in Atlanta, Georgia. There you see James Weaver running in 5th position after taking over from Hurley Haywood. Good run today for the Englishman and his American partner. Tweaking more horsepower out of those water-cooled Porsche engines all the time. Porsche may yet return to competitiveness in Camel GT racing. Meanwhile, Geoff Brabham, having things pretty much his way, has about a 20-second gap over his teammates in the second place cars right now, and he can pretty much hit cruise control. We're not far from the checkered flag here at Mid-Ohio. There is the second place car crossing the start-finish line and into turn 1. And he has a bit of a problem. Look at the back of your screen. That white car is the Toyota of Drake Olson. Between them, the lapped car of Wayne Taylor. There is Olson in the number 98 machine. He has spent over 2 hours in that car to this point. And Drake has kind of a peculiar problem. His right foot, his throttle foot, has a tendency to fall asleep on him when he spends too much time in the car.
That's because when he's in the car, he spends too much of his time with his foot mashed on the floor, and it probably pushes the blood out of his foot. Drake's very fast.
Drake is a charger, no doubt about it. But back up on point, Geoff Brabham, no slouch himself when it comes to speed, having things all his way, looking for the 5th victory for the Nissan team in the 1990 season. Once more, back on board. And the checkered flag waves for Geoff Brabham, who takes home another victory and solidifies his lead in the Drivers' Championship in Camel GT Racing for 1990. His teammates Chip Robinson and Bob Earl will finish 2nd, unless Drake Olson in that Toyota can close up very quickly. There is the lapped car. That is one of the Camel Lights car, I should say. Here comes Perry McCarthy, winner in the Camel Lights class with Tomas Lopez. Lopez will fatten up an already large lead in the Camel Lights points, hoping, as I said, to become the first foreign-born champion in that class. If so, he would be likely to join this man, Geoff Brabham, and we will have 2 foreign-born champions in IMSA racing. We'll be back to Mid-Ohio after this. Welcome back to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. Bob Varsha, Jack Baldwin, and Marty Reed with you. The race has been run, and for the 47th time in 4 seasons, 5th time in 8 races this year, Nissan has triumphed. For the 3rd straight time, I might add, here at Mid-Ohio, they have won pole, and they have now won the race. The common denominator is the man right there, Geoff Brabham, who has had a part in all 3 victories here at Mid-Ohio. He's in victory lane now with co-driver Derek Daly and Marty Reed.
Well, first off, congratulations, guys. Obviously, you've put to rest all reports that the Nissan domination was over.
Well, I tell you, the Jaguar at the beginning of the race, I think us and them are about equal. I think it would have been a hell of a race if they managed to stay in, so it's a shame that they dropped out, but it's nice to get the first win for the new car. It ran pretty good throughout the whole race, and we're really happy.
Derek, did you have any problems with this car at all today?
We've had a little bit of a brake problem, which was the same as the last race, but something we could monitor and just about control. But it's not as good as we wanted. But I think the reliability of the Nissan shows through again, and I think it's just a credit to the people who put the cars together.
Well, congratulations to you, and it's a clean sweep for Nissan because the second place car is also another Nissan. All the way around, a big day for your team. Thank you.
And in fact, Geoff Brabham, Derek Daly, Chip Robinson, and Bob Earl make it a 1-2 Nissan sweep. Drake Olson for Toyota, the only other car on the lead lap. There you see the 6th through 10th place cars. Let's get back to victory lane now to meet our lights winners. Once again, here's Marty.
In Camel Lights, the winners, Perry McCarthy and Tomas Lopez. And Perry, you've got the right shoe off and are hobbling. What happened?
I had a stress fracture in my foot earlier in the week, and the medical team here at Mid-Ohio have been fantastic. And they made me a cast to wear on my foot. But unfortunately, the race being the length it was, and the problems we had in the car, I think, by the feel of it, I think that metatarsal bone is just broken. So it's a bit of a problem. We started off with no 4th gear, and then in the last 6 laps I lost 5th gear as well. So 1, I'm happy to finish, and 2, delighted to win.
A great victory, but an awful big price.
Just got to win. Worry about everything else afterwards. Just win first.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, I tell you what, Al Davis of the Football Raiders would be proud. Just win, baby. And it's a debut victory for Perry McCarthy with points leader Tomas Lopez and Camel Lights over Charles Morgan and Tom Hessert and the rest of the Camel Lights field. It has been a great weekend here at Mid-Ohio, and with that victory today, Geoff Brabham ties a record set by Derek Bell and the late Al Holbert, 3 straight victories at beautiful Mid-Ohio. I'm Bob Varsha. For Jack Baldwin and Marty Reed, thanks for being with us. So long from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio.